What's up, Science Warriors? Guys, this is Coach Jones here for another Atlas Academy 6th grade science flipped video. Hopefully you guys are having great. We're going to be talking about lab safety today. We're also going to be exploring how to take 2-column notes and Cornell notes in class. So your EQ for today, what you need to put at the top of your notes so that you know what the topic is what is lab safety with a question mark. So put that at the top of your paper. Also make sure that your name and all that good stuff is also at the top of your paper. So let's dive into it, why don't we? So a little legal stuff, but what is the purpose of lab safety, you guys? Science courses, the reason we gotta be safe is because we get hands-on sometimes. We start messing with stuff, and some of this stuff is fragile and can break, and we don't want to cause any accidents. So safety in the science classroom is our #1 priority, okay? It should be the priority of myself, the teacher. It should be a priority of you, the student, and of anyone who comes in our room, like parents or administrators or anyone like that. Now, if you're using 2-column notes, the title at the top of the slide should be your main idea that goes on the left-hand side. Your details, what we're talking about, what you hear, what you see, what you feel is important to write down about that topic needs to go on your right-hand side. If you're doing Cornell notes, you can make a small title and fill in details underneath it. Just make sure you leave room and pay attention to the titles of your slides so that you can keep everything nice and neat and organized and together. Alright, so continuing talking about why do we need to be safe. Okay, having knowledge of these safety practices, okay, allows us to know what to do in case of an emergency, an accident, something that happens really quick and that can be very dangerous if we don't know what to do. So if we know safety practices, we're rock and roll. Identifying potential dangers. When you walk in, if you notice something that could cause an accident, then that should definitely be addressed by the teacher, by the student, and the student coming and telling the teacher, all of those things. Now, let's get some general safety rules out of the way. First off, always follow instructions and directions. Okay, some of these we should know from day one. For instance, don't touch anything unless instructed to do so. Also, kind of a secondary one that's still very, very important is to read all instructions, including procedures, the step-by-step process of how to make or do the lab itself. You need to read that before you do anything with the equipment. And then all safety equipment needs to be checked. And you also need to know where, if something happens, where to go. So like if you get something in your eye, you need to go to the eye wash station. If there's a fire, we have a fire extinguisher. If we're cut or anything, we need to know where the band-aids and the first aid kit are, as well as the safety shower. Okay, if we get chemicals on our body, okay, we got to get those off before they actually cause damage, and the safety shower in the lab does just that. All right, some more general safety rules. Students should work in well-ventilated areas where we're good there. Wash our hands if we're dealing with stuff that could get on them. Okay, we need to keep our area clean during the lab, so our tabletops don't need to be full of a whole bunch of stuff. We need to confirm that the lab area and all equipment has been cleaned and unplugged before we leave. Okay, we don't want to leave a mess because that could cause a problem for the next group. And then, of course, notify the teacher of any accidents, any spills, or any breaks that might occur. It's better to tell than to wait and then have the teacher find out. Okay, what should the student not do is begin any lab until you are told to do so. You should not begin until instructions and safety and everything has been addressed. You should definitely not bring any food or drinks anywhere near the laboratory equipment. There will be a designated area to put those things during lab exercises that is required. And then also any horse playing in the lab. Playing around with your buddy, pushing on them, pulling on somebody's hair, all those kind of things is an instant violation and can have you removed from the lab and given an alternative assignment, which usually is less cool and a whole lot more difficult. Alright, moving right along, let's talk about what we can wear for safety purposes. Whenever we're dealing with things like glass, heat, chemicals, we're going to be wearing our goggles. Okay, they're not pretty, but we got to wear them to keep our eyes safe. Okay, our eyes are very important. Even fumes can hurt the eye, and those goggles help protect as much as possible from those. Okay, you wear them the entire time of the lab. If you wear glasses, the goggles are designed to go over them. If you wear contacts, then you could just obviously put on your goggles over those. All right, eyeglasses are not a substitute for safety glasses. Remember that. Okay, gloves. We're rarely going to need gloves in our class, but this kind of helps give an extra layer of protection from chemicals like acids and bases and things of that nature. But we also have different kinds of gloves depending on what we are going to be doing. So we wear cloth gloves if we're going to be doing something that's dry, okay, like working in the garden. Okay, you usually don't work with a lot of wet stuff when you're just digging in the dirt. We use rubber gloves whenever we're using chemicals like solvents and corrosives, things that can actually hurt our hands. That rubber is designed to not react with those things. And the last one is leather. Okay, we can wear leather gloves when we're dealing with heat or sparks or things that are very, very sharp or rough. Okay, that gives us that protection as well. Okay, go into our attire, what we should be wearing. First off, you gotta wear closed-toed shoes, okay, and you can have no heels on them. We also need to wear long pants and long sleeves. Now, for most of the labs we'll be doing, that is not a major issue. As long as your shirt has sleeves, which is required by the dress code, you are good on your shirt. Sometimes I may mention that we need to be wearing pants for a particular lab. You need to make sure that you show up in that attire, because there will not be anything for you to put on to replace it, and so you'll therefore not be able to participate. If needed, we can use aprons. Okay, it says lab coats. I will wear my lab coat just because it's lab day. However, we're really going to need aprons, but if we need them, we can get to them. You need to make sure, okay, if you're not like me and you have long hair, you need to pull it back and you need to tie it into a ponytail. Keep that out of your face and away from where it can hang into the equipment and things of that nature. And then lastly, baggy clothing. Okay, baggy clothing is not good. Dangling jewelry is very bad, so just take your jewelry out, make sure your clothing is tied back, and you should be good to go. Alright, let's talk about some rules now. We're talking chemicals. Okay, you never taste or smell anything unless directed to do so. Okay, to smell, we're going to do the waft. Okay, if this was my container and I wanted to see what it smelled like, I would need to push the air towards my nose instead of putting my nose directly over it, because if those fumes are toxic or what we call caustic, it could actually very much hurt you or make you pass out, or it can be even more dangerous. Alright, and then of course, if we're working with chemicals, you need to make sure that there's a label so you know which ones they are. Okay, a little bit more on chemicals. Ensure accurate use by reading the label twice. You don't want to grab something thinking that it's one thing when it's actually not. We definitely don't want to contaminate, meaning to get things mixed together at all, especially when we're wanting to keep things separate until it's time to mix or time to put them together. Alright? We also need to dispose of chemicals using the right method. Okay, that'll be described each lab when we do cleanup. Okay? Make sure that you're careful with flammable chemicals near heat sources. Okay, make sure that you do not take chemicals out of the lab for any reason. This includes even a beaker of water. Don't even take that out, because that's meant to be in the lab. Alright, we're going to keep the containers and make sure that they are always closed after we're using them. And then of course, if there's any spill, let me know. Alright, glassware and equipment rules. Okay, never use dirty, chipped, or broken glassware of any kind and of any amount. Okay, if it's dirty, chipped, or broken, let me know. If we can fix it, we'll fix it. If it's broken, we will dispose of it and we'll try to get something else to replace it. A crack in a piece of glass, in a glass beaker that you heat up, can actually explode. The pressures and the heat and everything that's going on can cause it just to shatter, sending glass everywhere. Okay? Make sure if we're ever using anything with electricity that you also check and make sure that there's no tears or holes in cords and things of that nature. Let me know if there's any problem with your electrics or your glass. Okay, next, if we ever heat, okay, we will have that set up, but you always want to make sure that things are pointed away from you whenever possible. This is why long hair must be tied back. Baggy clothing is bags. If we're using heat, those things could dangle and then actually catch fire. Okay, we're not going to talk about MSDS, and there's are the resources that were used to put this together. So ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, thank you so much for your time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure that if you need to, you go back, pause, rewind, do everything you need to make sure that you get all of this information. I'll see you later. Peace.